Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Our morning maintenance is done on this beautiful Saturday morning. It's lining up to be a good day, or at least a better day than we've been having the last few days, which would not take much. Dad headed west with the big machine. I have no idea where he went, I just know what direction he was traveling. It's looking like we're gonna have some phenomenal weather today. Beans are gonna dry quickly. We're gonna need to get started pretty early. I woke up with a slight cough and a stuffy throat this morning, and I thought about calling in sick to work, and then I asked myself, who would stand here all day and complain about what we're doing? I at least owe my family some reliability and consistency, and I can provide them that. Enough joking around. I'm gonna get headed down the road with this draper, and we're gonna go find some beans to cut. This 45-foot platform's a load even for this pickup truck. This is a heavy-duty diesel. Don't you worry, we'll be back for these beans eventually. We need a frost or something to really kill the rest of them off so they don't plug the chopper on the combine. I guess that was pretty predictable. Combine's almost always at the fuel tank in the morning. This X9's pretty fuel efficient though. I mean, it can almost go 2 days unless you get a lot done in one day without fueling it up. Big machine still at the fuel barrel. We're going to take the smaller one across the interstate here where we were last night. Got a little 17-acre patch to try to cut first thing. Then we're going to move them both to a bigger field. I just had an incredible idea. I mean, this is probably multi-million-dollar type of thought. What if they made a fuel barrel that was on wheels, that also had a diesel exhaust fluid tank and like a drawer for all your spare parts and tools? Maybe an air compressor? Don't anyone go patent that idea before me. I thought of that originally myself. Are you picking up what I'm envisioning? Like you could drive it to the field and not have to bring the combine to the fuel tank. It's like a mobile fuel tank. Genius. We're just right across the interstate. We were on the east side over there. Now we're on the west side. It's got 17 acres here. They won't be great. Water damaged and not great soil. Worst combination for this year. Dad's been cutting over there for 5 minutes now and hasn't stopped, so I assume it's good to go. I'm gonna move this truck over there, then we're gonna shuffle some other equipment. Katie should be here shortly to take over that combine, and we're gonna move the big machine to a different field. Dad just radioed, he thinks that this specific patch of beans is gonna need another hour to dry, so we'll probably go ahead and move the other combine. In typical dad fashion, he said the beans aren't gonna cut, and then he never stopped cutting. He did that the other day too. I'm gonna leapfrog him here and take the grain cart to the next field where the bigger machine will be at here shortly. Katie's on her way to run the 670. We should get some stuff done today. Or not. Sometimes we don't get stuff done if you can't tell from the previous few videos. We're back at the other field. You see Dad right there by that tree line. This is really good dirt. This next field's really good dirt. Then you cross over the interstate and you get to some pretty poor dirt. Amazing what the glaciers can do, cause a lot of soil variability in a short distance. I mean, look at this dirt. That is phenomenal. That's why these beans made 72 despite a lot of water damage. This 80-acre field on the left up here is our stop. Another one with super good soil, just some water damage. We'll see how they do whenever we get moved here, I guess. If we get some time, I'm finally gonna do it. I'm gonna clean my windows at some point, maybe. Maybe not, we'll see. Dad and Katie are making the switch. We're going to move the other combine to the other field. We're a grain cart. Headed southwest of the main farm about 3 miles to cut a sample from a different field, and then the smaller machine will be joining us shortly. Nag, 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 nag. We're not doing a software update right now. We're trying to cut beans. Chris is right on time with the hinge draper. I think Dad let me drive this to the field just because it's awful and squirrely to take down the road. I'll hop out and get this thing unstrapped and hooked up. Should have brought my GoPro, it would have made this a lot easier to film. There's the grain tank. Let's cut this baby open. Upon further review, actually, let's not cut any babies open. That was a very poor choice of words. Already under 13% moisture. These are Don Mario 34 E11s. That's a 3-4 bean planted second week of May. Again, phenomenal farmland, just subject to some water damage. I think the highs will outweigh the lows in this field. I tried opening up the concaves to like 20, slowing down the threshing speed to 600, and the sample was not good. I wasn't getting all the beans out of the pod, so I'm going back to a tighter clearance, higher threshing speed. You gotta be kind of careful when you get too tight and too fast, because you'll start cracking them. And cracking them leads to less grain quality. The elevator usually doesn't dock you for it, but you hate to not send a good sample. We should be about full. We've made one lap around 40 acres, starting on the second lap. We're gonna pull the grain cart in the field. I assume Dad will be back to take over this machine pretty soon, although I am enjoying running it. It's fun when it's not plugged. Looks like we're gonna have a strong south wind today. That's gonna be bad because the beans are gonna be 9% by the time we get done. I pulled out of the field the minute the grain tank full sensor went off, and then I just came to a stop here, and I did hear a sprinkle on top of the cap. Very little room for error there. There's just a little trickle, a few little beans. That means it was perfectly full. You didn't run some over, didn't put enough on.
Oh yeah, I could have fit another 10 bushel on there.
I'm kind of curious because people have a lot of opinions on it. Let me know in the comments if you're running a Deere machine. It doesn't matter. Say what machine it is and what harvest settings you're running. How many RPMs on the rotor, on the fan, what's your concave, your chaffer, your sieve set at. Everyone's got a completely different idea of how they should process their beans.
At least I don't have to walk far to the cart. Parked it in a good spot.
When I moved it here, I thought we were starting on the West 40. It's technically a rectangular 80, 81, 82 acres. It's split in half. Although we farm it as one, we have to separate it for harvest because two different people own half the field, and we got to keep it fair. Everyone gets their fair share. No one gets more, no one gets less. Here comes Dad with the 30-foot draper, so Katie must be done with her field. I don't think I'm going to get to run this much longer. I may actually be done now, unless I sneak off in there and cut another load. Look at that thing go. Those are good looking beans. Sample's a little dirty. Need an expert to get in here and adjust this. Based on Dad walking this direction, I think my time's up. That's all right. He's a better operator than I am anyways. Although I don't run steel rods through the combine, at least not yet.
You're already on the ground growing.
Like it popped out before?
No.
Yeah. Wow.
Dad was pointing out how some of these beans popped out on their own and they've already been growing. Like that one's been out of the ground for at least a week.
I've seen some correlation between damage, whether it be from compaction, sprayer tracks, or water.
In those areas, I think the beans are stressed and those ones are more likely to crack open when it's dry out.
Now that I think about it, Katie's not fueled her combine up in almost 2 days, so she probably went by home to get fuel.
Before things get too hectic and the second combine shows up, I want to talk to you briefly about the sponsor of today's video, the worldwide leader in innovative and effective crop protectant products, Syngenta. In terms of farming, I'm decent at a lot of things. There's only a few things I'm good at, and setting a combine obviously is not one of them. I'm very confident though in simple agronomic decision making and our chemical plans for the year to reach maximum effective results at the best price point. Unfortunately, controlling tough weeds like water hemp has been a hard lesson for us to learn. I thought it was simple, it's not. We're out here in a presumably high yielding field of soybeans that looks pretty clean. I don't see a water hemp in sight other than a few spots on the end where the sprayer left a track.
The problem is that they ought to be clean. We had to respray this field multiple times after our initial post-application because we could not control emerged water hemp. A mistake on our part by not using proper burn down and having ineffective tillage when conditions were too wet to not uproot and terminate growing water hemp in May.
For the last handful of years in our soybeans, I feel like we've been doing enough, yet it hasn't been enough. We've been making one major mistake, and it's relying on one mode of action, not multiple modes of action, to help control water hemp before they emerge. It's easier to keep seeds from growing than to stop weeds once they have momentum. Water hemp's the obvious example because it's like a freight train. Once it gets going, not very many things can stop it. I'm gonna have to speed this up or I'm gonna get absolutely dusted by this machine.
I'm taking a temporary intermission to hide from the combine as it goes by. Oh, I sure hope I shut the door on the tractor. Sometimes I don't, and it's not good.
How is he full already? He just dumped like 4 or 5 minutes ago.
The math is very simple out here. You want to produce the most amount of soybeans possible, and pesky weeds like water hemp, giant ragweed, mare's tail, you name it, they squeeze that yield out of the field by stealing sunlight, nutrients, and water, which is not what we want. I think you all are probably smart enough to be picking up what I'm putting down. Yield is important, and weeds like water hemp that steal it are not good. My simple recommendation. The goal when fighting herbicide-resistant weeds is to start clean and stay clean. We want the weeds to not even emerge. A powerful premix like Syngenta's Tendovo is a really good premium option in the market to accomplish this. It has a hefty rate of Syncor, Dole, and first rate. The first rate is really good at controlling large-seeded broadleafs like giant ragweed, morning glories, some of those weeds that some of you fight. We don't really have much of an issue with them. And then the metribuzin and the Dole in particular are really good at holding water hemp down. You've got a more water-soluble product like metribuzin that activates easily with small rainfalls, and then you have Dole, which is a little bit longer lasting, and I think they complement each other really well. It's all packed into a nice premix courtesy of Syngenta's Tendovo. Definitely worth looking into, and I think it's a viable option on any acre, especially a challenging high-pressure acre, specifically if you're growing non-GMO soybeans, because those are the hardest ones to control water hemp in. You've got no options when you're non-GMO for post-emergence herbicides that will work to control water hemp. You got to keep the field clean from the start. An equal consideration when making your herbicide programs is evaluating the crop safety of the individual chemistries within your blend. You have a package put together with Tendovo that is not going to slow your soybeans down. Every day of vegetative growth matters, especially early in the season. If you're using chemistries that stop water hemp but also stunt your beans in the process or risk crop safety, you're hurting yourself. You're cutting off your leg to save your arm in a roundabout way. We need to be using multiple modes of action that are effective against our troublesome weeds while not slowing down our soybeans. Tendovo is a great option on the market in 2025. There's a lot of great ways to explore Tendovo. You go to Syngenta's website, talk to your local Syngenta representative, your preferred retailer or wholesaler. They've got it. It's good stuff. We've got fields that have phenomenal control thanks to Tendovo. This was a single mode of action competitor we used out here. Had to be resprayed multiple times. It's not just the competitor's fault, it's also some of our own doing, but there's options in the market that I think hedge your bet to make your life easier and keep your fields cleaner. Tendovo's one to look for. That X9 1100 in dry soybeans just absolutely eats. He's probably doing 25 to 28 acres an hour now, and I'd guess 75 to 80 bushel beans. I have no idea where Katie is. She must have taken a nap. Dad just buzzed me. He wanted me to just kind of check and make sure he's getting all the beans. Some of our earlier cut fields have some beans that went out the back. Some of it was probably header loss. Some of it was machine loss. Again, we could do better job setting the combine. It's hard to be perfect. When they're 11%, they're dry, they're gonna pop right out of the pods, and they're more likely to get lost out the back or off the head. It's funny because you'll go behind the combine and check, and you'll see one, and then you'll get a couple inch rain, and then there'll be 1,000 out there. And it's like, how did I miss those when I was looking for the sample? There's one. That looks like we're doing a really good job. Now, if it rains, it won't look like that. There's a few. Not horrible. There's Katie right there. Now I'm not gonna get to take my nap. I went to go catch Katie, and she sheared a bowl on her auger, so I'm catching this from the big combine, gonna load a truck, and then go look at her auger. Hopefully it's just a shear bolt, which is probably what it is. That 670 likes to eat them for some reason. Let's go help Katie out. She may already have it fixed. Yeah, the shear bolt is in fact sheared. Happens. There's the shear bolt. All right, should be good to go unless there's something else wrong.
Good. Thank you.
Well, it may not be done yet.
For now.
Time to see if that fixes the issue. Almost all the time, it's just the shear bolt has sheared. One of these times, the auger gear case or something's going to be out. It's unloading. Sigh of relief. Oh, it is literally always something during harvest. You can plant an entire planting season and not break a single thing, yet every single day, things are breaking left and right on the combines, on the heads. Just a very fragile environment. You're gonna rock through it, or does this fall off, you think? Got a hole there. Oh, jeez.
Turn the wheel, turn the sickle. Problem is the bolts go through the skid.
He's missing one of the Palmer skid shoes on the bottom. He had a guard off, so either it wasn't tightened enough or something broke it. And he's also got a hole in the belt, and that's probably the most expensive issue. Go ahead and try to run it. It appears to be cutting fine. I think you can get away with not having one or two of those, but if there's a bunch in a row that are missing on the bottom, they'll start to drag up really bad.
The first 41 acres is about wrapped up. Took about an hour, a little more than an hour. Dad thinks maybe that rip was in the belt from that railroad iron that we ran through the other machine, and we're just now noticing it, which is a very real possibility. I just figured out what the first 41 acres made, right under 73, 72.9. Those beans look better than that. They may just be a showy variety that look like they've got a lot of yield on them. 72 to 73 is respectable for this year, particularly with the water damage we're seeing on a farm like this. I think we'll take that to the bank, be happy that we have that much. Still, left a lot on the table. As of today, we've not cut anything better than 77 dry bushels per acre. That is the peak that we've hit so far. I don't know if we're going to get over that. We have a few good fields left, and we've also got some fields that are more challenging. 70 is going to catch most of our beans this year. And we've already caught most of our beans, so that's a pretty accurate statement. We just finished up that 80, took a little less than 3 hours, moving a mile down the road now. I got some left on the cart, so once I get that dumped, after we move the draper, I'll be able to tell you final yield. I'm thinking low 70s right now, that's what it looks like.
Okay, I got it.
Just loaded the last truck from that field after we got everything shuffled around. Jeff and Nate have been hauling down to Neoga, which is 10 miles away. Between them and Jake Uphoff texting me, they said there's probably 50 trucks down there. So Jeff has left Neoga with a fully loaded truck and is headed north 20 miles to Cole Station, northwest of Mattoon, because the line is that bad at Neoga. Just because the place has poor logistics, nothing against anyone there, it's just not a convenient place to haul to when it's busy. It'd be a nice time to have a nice big bin to put beans in. Some of you longtime viewers out there and people who've watched the previous videos are going to wonder why we're not loading beans into our bean bins. We've already filled one small one. Our big one, we've been having trouble keeping grade and quality with it, so we're going to try to rotate it out into corn for a year, see if that helps with it a little bit. And other than that, we're just planning on taking the beans to the elevator and storing the corn for logistics.
Got a car coming around the corner, Andy.
That's the plan right now. I said before, it'd be nice to build a big bean bin with good airflow to it, big fans on it. Before I leave this field, these Don Mario 34E11s on the entire 82 acres made 73 over the scales on Lieber cart. That's pretty good. I thought they looked better than that. The west half, which has lower quality soil on part of it, also drains better, had to have yielded more. So I think the water damage on the eastern portion of the field brought the overall average down. These could have been 80 bushel beans if they hadn't gotten so much rain, but that's the case with a lot of our fields this year. Dad disappeared to go do some managerial stuff somewhere, so I'm back in his machine for a little bit while we open up this field. These are Pioneer 37A18s on a field that should do better than it does. It never grows good beans. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a drainage issue or what. The beans look uniform. The yield monitor does not look that impressive. Yield monitor seems to be a little bit on the low side. I don't know what it said for the last field. And it's showing 54, so these may be making 60 if we're lucky. I don't know why this field does so poorly because the soil is good. That's an old gravel pit right over there. So underneath the black topsoil, maybe there's too much water. The water table's too high. I don't know if tile would help or if it'd be money wasted on this farm. You know when you're pushing a 45-foot draper 6 miles an hour in beans, that the beans are not very good. This 50 acres is not gonna take very long if it yields like it is. Have you found that tile hole yet, Katie? I'm 100% certain there's one out here.
Yes.
I swear it's in that last little pass you have, but maybe it's over here by me. Our time's up again for the second time today. Now that I think about it, I never found time to clean my windows today. Unhooked. I gotta dump a little more off, stop by the fuel tank. Combines are headed west of Mattoon, north of here about 7-8 miles to try some beans that we think are gonna cut. If not, we'll just have to turn around and come back home. Looks like that bean field did slightly better than the combine monitor, right around 61 bushel an acre. They were averaging 10%, so there's a couple bushel loss there from moisture. Gotta count it as it is though, call the ball as it lies. If you didn't cut them wet enough to get the moisture, you don't get to count it. Everyone else is headed to have fun and cut some soybeans, and we got to stop for fuel and to protect the environment because both of them are important. All jokes aside, I'm going to be in the doghouse if these beans don't cut. I was using context clues and what I've seen so far to estimate without looking at the field that they should cut. So if we move all 5 things up there, the 2 combines, the 2 head carts, and then the grain cart, and they won't cut, that's not going to be very happy with me. Some lessons you gotta learn the hard way. I don't think I've even fueled this grain cart up for like 6 or 7 days. That's like an electric vehicle in terms of tractor fuel economy. Headed up to God's country. Crossing Route 16 to the flat Blacklands. Got a little bit of a traffic jam going on over there, so I'm just gonna stay on this side of the road.
Yeah, Dad is still learning with this hinge draper. That or it doesn't cut very good. We've noticed this when we cut the outside of the fields off. It drags up a lot. Once you get out in the field, it's not as bad. There's a lot of beans he ran over. Beautiful time of day, even with a dragged up mess of beans. A little bit of dirt is good for the combine, right? It's like brushing your teeth.
Dad has already made multiple complaints since starting about that hinge draper. One, it's really complicated to hook and unhook versus the regular flex draper. And two, it drags up a lot. It may be a flex draper would drag up as well. I don't know how much of that is the head and how much of it is the operator. It does a good job flexing over uneven terrain like terraces. It's really impressive. Other places, not so much. You really needed to cut well on the flat spots too. As long as the operators don't quit out of frustration, we ought to cut a lot of beans in a very short amount of time when the sun sets. That was short-lived. Dad got frustrated because his head kept dragging up. It looks like Katie's is as well. These beans are just tough already once the sun's going down, and he wants to quit. It's also Saturday, so get a nice full night's rest, get up, go to church tomorrow, and then maybe get another good day of harvest. I thought we'd be able to get a lot more done than we did. We might have cut 10, 15 acres. I think Dad's also got a short fuse just from a long few days on the farm. I can't blame him there. Once he's ready to be done, we're done. There's got to be something wrong we're doing with the draper. I don't know if we're not backing the down pressure off. I don't know if we lift the head up, tilt it a little bit. Just doesn't seem to do a great job, even when it's dry sometimes. Maybe it was because we got all the rain a week ago and the ground's still a little bit soft. Speaking of rain, I don't even want to look at the yield map because there's so much water damage on this farm. It's got to be bad. Despite our difficulties, we are greeted by a beautiful sky tonight. I'm going to make this a two-part video. I will check in tomorrow.